Today I have the pleasure of talking to Nick Borelli, who is the principal at Ray White Paradise. He's been with the group for over 8.5 years when he started his career as a sales associate, built a high volume business, a large EBU with 5 members, chairman's elite agent, turning out more than 130 deals a year. Nick, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Beef. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so I'd like to go back to the beginning of your story before you got into real estate. So a bit of an interesting journey for you, probably far too smart to be in real estate. On the pathway for university, tell me what happened along the way.
Yeah, so got into real estate probably the long way around. Did uni for a short period of time. It was an international business and finance degree. Probably something I shouldn't have been doing. I just followed one of my best mates into uni at the time. It was the easier way to get him to enroll for me. So after 12 months, found out that wasn't for me. Couldn't really see myself, being an accountant behind a computer looking at numbers all day. So I did have a friend who was looking for some help at his work. Early morning, produce wholesaling. So I thought, you know what? Finished not doing uni anymore, may as well just try and make a little bit of money in the mornings while I'm looking at maybe getting into a new degree or another job. And what was meant to be 12, 15 hours a week turned into 8.5 years there.
Wow.
Which was good. Yeah, loved where I worked, loved the family, loved the business, but sort of fell into real estate after that.
Yeah, so how did that change? Because obviously you didn't mean to be working in that job that you were, but 8.5 years, and you built yourself into that role. What made you go into real estate? What caused that change?
So it's probably been about 10 or so years now. I felt quite ill when I was working at my old workplace. I don't think the doctors ever found out what it was. It was like an airborne bacteria type thing. So long story short, just caused multiple organ shutdown.
Wow.
Ended up losing 25 kilos in 15 days, was in a coma for a couple of weeks. So I think they told my parents to call the family to come say goodbye. So pretty luckily pulled out of that. And then just sitting at home, 3-4 months, couldn't go back to work. As I learned to sort of walk again, all those bits and pieces, I was sort of thinking, well, what do I want to do with myself? Like, I loved where I was, I loved the family, but I was probably at the limit to where I was going to go in that business, and I'm fairly driven. I'm a bit of a workaholic, so I just thought, well, what's an industry that I enjoy, that I can see myself growing something for myself as well and growing into? So my now wife's family was selling a house through Jason Spagnuolo. He was my first boss, and they just suggested I get a coffee with him, and the rest is history.
And how did you know, just through word of mouth, friends, that real estate was that type of industry that gave you that opportunity to get the reward for the, you said you're a workaholic, you can work hard, but you can get rewarded for it?
Correct. Yeah, just through word of mouth. I always had a keen interest in property as well at the same time. Like while I was working in my previous job, I enjoyed economics, I enjoyed reading up about property, and I bought an investment or two as well. So I did enjoy that side of things. I probably had a different idea as to what real estate really is, now versus when I was getting into the industry, but I do love it.
So you thought you'd just be given a BMW when you first walked in?
Lots of coffees. Far from that.
Okay, well that's interesting that you had that perception of real estate and then you found out what it really was and that you persevered. So talk about those early years. You mentioned working with Jason Spagnuolo. He is now your business partner. So talk about your first role and what you did and how you kind of got through that change of realising what was actually you had to step up and do every day versus what you thought you were getting into.
So I think at the time, 8.5 years ago when I did start with Jason, EBUs were a sort of a new thing. Not too many people were sort of running an EBU. So I think I was Jason's first sales associate. He had Ryan Evans, sort of an admin associate, and I was a sales associate there. So we basically winged it for a year or two, just trying to figure out what to do. So I did a lot of the running around for the team, a lot of the down and dirty work. I swear I wanted to quit every 4 to 6 weeks. I was pulling the pin, and Jason's like, look, just stick it out. It'll come. It'll happen. So from open inspections, assisting with that, inquiries, letter writing. We wrote a lot of letters and posted the CMAs, handwritten script for every single one. So creating those, posting those, did a lot of that sort of stuff.
And like the business model that you came into, some people will know from the Norwood business that you've come out of to create your partnership with Jason. It's a relationship model. It's running a database, a high volume database. So let's just talk about when you joined Jason's team. How many people would you be talking to? How many? You mentioned the pieces of collateral you send out, but how many touch points with each person over a year?
They would have probably got, the first year was probably less relationship building for me, and obviously Jason was doing that, but I think touch points were 6, 8 touch points from CMAs, calls every 6 months, a CMA or a report every 3 months, thank you cards, little Erics, so people getting emails as well. Probably 6 to 8 touch points from us a year.
And has that built a framework that you continue to model today in your business? Okay. So high touch point, really good. You mentioned to me before that you feel that one of your strengths is around building trust and relationships. So how would you do, you meet me at an open home, you don't know me, how does that look? What kind of experience do I get from you over the time?
Yeah, so I'd meet you at an open home. You have no intention of selling. You're just one of the neighbours up the road. I'm starting to see it now, being 8 or 8.5 years in the business, where those people that I met 6, 7, 8 years ago, the relationship has gone from never doing anything to wanting to maybe think about doing something with in real estate. So it was just lots of gentle touch points. I like to provide a bit of information as well, and just again build a bit of a relationship with people, find out about them, let them know a little bit about me, so it's actually a proper relationship. So if there's something that happens on the street, and I'm pretty religious with when people get touch points from me. So it could just be, hey, how you going? Haven't seen you for a while, versus, look, your neighbour ended up selling. So whenever I do call them, there's a reason behind it as well. And slowly over time, that just helps to build trust with them.
And it's so interesting because that is obviously a model that is spruiked, but it is actually not put into practice by the majority of the industry. So how do you motivate yourself to talk to someone for 8 years who is not thinking about doing anything in real estate? So you're making no money from the time and effort that you're putting into that relationship.
I just think there's plenty of harder, worse things that I could be doing. Could be out in the sun, out in the cold, digging, working a physical job. I think if I have to pick up the phone and speak to someone for 30 seconds, it's not too hard.
Okay.
I have music in the background as well, and the headphones, that helps keep me motivated between the calls.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we go back, so you started, you were doing everything, you're a dog's body, then you start to build your own database within the team. And so when you were working alongside Jason as his sort of second in command, if you like, you were effectively running as another agent within that EBU.
Spot on.
Yeah. And so what I think is quite interesting about your career is you stayed in the team for 3.5 years.
3.5.
So you came in with ambition, you wanted the reward. So many young agents and sales associates are just champing at the bit to get out. Why did you stay in the team as long as you did?
I enjoyed working with the team. We're all very close. Now, one of the other sales associates is also a business partner with Jason down at Ray White Grange. So we've built really good relationships with each other. And I think the one thing that was really instilled with us early on was we are a team, we're achieving this all together. So all the accolades that Jason was achieving at the time, it was us achieving that, because we all knew that it takes all of us working together in order to do that. So firstly, enjoyed working with the team and achieving something together. That was one thing, but I also really wanted to get myself comfortable and in a position that when I was ready to possibly leave the team, I could hit the ground running with my own associate, as opposed to then starting on my own and then needing to go back and do a lot of those other sort of administrative based tasks, which I've never really done.
Yeah, so rather than leaving earlier and having the whole burden of running your business on your own, you wanted to set it up to such a level whereby you come out with a team from the get-go.
Correct, yep. And then I did doubt myself a little bit as well. Am I going to be able to do this on my own? So that I maybe could have done it a year sooner, but I just think I needed a extra year of convincing myself that I can do this.
And like we talked about volume before, with volume of database and volume of calls and relationship management, but you mentioned when you first stepped out, you were already writing 35, 40 transactions inside the team. I mean, we have some Chairman's Elite businesses that don't even write that number of sales. You were writing that many sales before you stepped out. Talk to me about how volume is so important in your business.
It just creates more opportunities. I think real estate's just a numbers game. If you're going to speak to 30 people a day versus 90 people a day, you're going to have 3 times more opportunities pop up. So with us, I think we've been very fortunate. In the areas that we work, a lot of first home buyer market, so they do sort of transact a little bit more frequently, but we did more opens, we met more buyers, more opportunities popped up. So it just sort of scales and builds from there.
So let's move forward. You've stepped out. You're a leader for the first time, and you come into already managing a person straight off the bat. How did you find that transition to going from being within a team, having someone else calling the shots, to now you're in that position yourself?
I think I did okay. Like my first associate, Zach, he was just a really relaxed, easygoing country kid. You might remember him. So so he was a little gopher, would do absolutely everything. So that really helped, having someone willing just to listen, learn, and do what was asked of them. I was fortunate being in the position that I was, that I always could lean on someone like Jason. I'm having trouble here. What do I say there? What's the best way of managing there? So that sort of helped that first year or so as I built my experience in leading someone as well.
What I want to ask you about is letting go. So you are, I remember Jason saying about you once that you are like a steam train. Like once you get going, you're like a locomotive, you just don't stop.
Yeah.
So not everybody has that level of work ethic, ability to, Suzanne, you talked about 80 hours of work before. Most people can't do that. How do you go from excelling in a high performing team, being a high performer yourself, and then having people come and work alongside you who 9 out of 10 people aren't going to be able to match what you do? Did you struggle in your level of expectation with what someone else would bring into the team? Was that something you had to work on with yourself?
Yeah, and still now. I think a little bit. One thing I have learned is that everyone is different, and no point trying to really mold someone to be exactly the same as you. Everyone has their own strengths. Everyone works a little bit differently, and I think when we did start together and that Ray White Norwood business, we have a lot of people that are very similar. So I think we're just fortunate that when we started, a lot of people with same work rates, ambitions, structure, systems, and we thought, okay, this is what everyone's going to be like, which we've sort of realised that everyone does things a little bit differently. So at the start it was hard. I don't let go of a lot of things which I probably should let go of, and that's probably a detriment to myself. Probably adds to sometimes the hours that go into the week, but it just helps with my anxiety sometimes, just doing the work. So
So now, we won't even talk about the business ownership yet, but you now run a team of 5. So what are the roles? What do the people do within the team now? You've obviously created specialists almost within your team. Some people who look after admin, others who are prospecting, different levels of sales associates. What do those roles look like?
So we've got Chloe. Chloe at the moment is a team administrator, but she's also a campaign manager for the new business that we've started. So she's wearing 2 hats. It's doing a great job. So she sort of just takes care of everything and makes sure everything's in order. I've got 3 sales associates. Andrew and Nick, they've been with me for 2.5 years now, maybe a little bit longer. They're basically solo agents in the team. They're doing their own thing, they're building their own careers, they're listing their own property. They're there just to assist with the volume and the opens and the inquiry and the missed calls and things like that. So for me personally, like my real goal now is to build them and get them to get to a point where they're too busy and it's time for them to leave the team. And we've also got Christian, who's been with me for about 6 months. He's a young green agent, and his role is just a prospect.
Yeah.
Cold call.
Yeah.
So
I'd like to ask you about the data, the division of data. We touched on, you do run a big database. So how many people are you personally responsible for looking after?
Probably two to 2,500.
Okay,
Somewhere between
2,500 people that
Yeah, I look after.
you have to call.
Yeah.
So how many hours a day would you say does that take to look after?
More than I'm committing at the moment. So I would say to do properly, you would probably need 5 hours a day into the database.
Yeah, which is historically what you've done.
Yeah, historically, yeah.
So what I want to ask is, I'm Andrew, I'm Nick, I'm Christian, I'm working in your team.
Yeah.
What's your attitude towards the way, you said they're their own agents, how do they build data when they're working alongside of you?
I think after eight and a half years, I've managed to build relationships with people. There's past clients as well. So a lot of that 2,500 ends up being people that I have known for a long time, or people that I've sold for and been referred to or sold, sold to. So with me, like, adding new bits of data isn't my focus. So the way we run the team is open inspections, email inquiries, calls that come in. That's got nothing to do with me. They're given the opportunity, and if they add that data, find that lead, that's for them to take care of.
Yeah. So they're then nurturing their own buckets of data.
Yeah.
They're not helping you manage your data. So you're just adding width to the team, because instead of 2,500 people, maybe you're managing 5,000 people between the 3 or 4 of you. Okay, great.
Spot on.
Great. I'd like to know how you feel about when a new sales associate should be allowed to do things like do an appraisal on their own. How long? Do you have a time frame around that? What's your attitude there?
A real time frame. I guess once they're feeling comfortable and confident enough to go out on their own, it could be. I think I remember my first appraisal. I think it was probably 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
I actually spoke to her off a sold call, and she said she had to sell, so I didn't know what to do. So I said, I'll call you tomorrow to book in a time, and I hung up. And she didn't answer for the next 3 weeks, so I was just like, what have I done? But ended up going out there, and that was my first ever listing. So
oh, wow.
Yeah, so wow. I still remember doing it. So I guess, whenever
so
the
that's
agents...
the measure.
That's the measure, yeah. Don't hang up until you call them tomorrow.
Yeah, and go out not knowing what you do. So you've got quite a relaxed attitude, I suppose, is allowing people to learn, go out and have a go. It's probably the best way to find out, get them doing appraisals pretty early in the journey.
I'll sit down with them and we'll go through a bit of a structure as to how one looks. But again, I'm fairly relaxed. I'm not overly polished or super structured with mine. So I'll give everyone a bit of a foundation as to how I do things, but to go back and make your own, create your own, and maybe role play with me a little bit. And then once you're ready to go out on your own and do your own, if it takes a month or 3 months or 6 months, that's cool.
You have quite a calm demeanour to you. Like, you are hardworking, you're driven, but you're not the sort of rule by the iron fist type. Like, which are great attributes in leadership. What would you say have been some of the tougher leadership lessons that you've had? You've built teams, you're now embarking upon business ownership, a few months into business ownership. Yeah. What have been the tougher lessons for you along the way?
One would be letting go, again, like we said. I still like to, in a way, oversee everything and know exactly what's happening at every point. I guess with a high volume business, there's a lot of things happening and a lot of deals under contract and settlements waiting and auctions coming up. So knowing exactly where everything's at makes me feel better. So one of the things is to learn to let go a little bit. Secondly is to have, if needed, tougher conversations maybe a little bit sooner, and not protecting everyone.
Yeah.
I never like making anyone feel bad, but I know in my role now, don't have to make them feel bad, but just to have the right conversations at the right time, not delay them. Yeah. It's probably protecting more myself trying to delay conversations like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I would love to ask you your opinion on, you're highly successful, you're developing a team, you're instilling those virtues in other people. What do you think are the critical the critical things within yourself and your business that have attributed to your success?
Not sure, to be fair. I think I like to lead by example. That's one thing. I'm very patient with people. And I get more of a kick out of seeing other people do well than myself do well. I'm not anyone to want to have my name in bright lights. That's not me. I'd rather sort of be in the background and really watch everyone else do well. So I think it's about instilling confidence in everyone. And one thing Jason and I are really looking at doing is trying to build an office of high performance, you know, and high performance can look different for everyone. Like, you know, high performance for me could look very different to high performance for the other one, but it's for someone else. But if we can make sure that people are enjoying what they're doing, enjoy where they work, there's a good culture within the office, and they're getting the most out of the time and the effort they put in, like that's, you know, going to make for an enjoyable workplace, and B, people are going to get that sort of reward and satisfaction for coming to work.
What do you think are the mistakes that people make when they're getting into real estate? You know, you see people, they look like they're going to set the world on fire and then they don't. What do you think are those sort of common pitfalls or mistakes that people make along the way?
I think it's not playing the long game enough. It's, I don't know, I sort of heard it or read it in an interview somewhere that I think people should look at real estate like a university degree. Like, it takes 3 to 4 years of tough work, which you're probably not going to always enjoy doing, before you really start to see, you know, the wheels ticking over. So I think it's that people just sort of want that instant gratification, which it's an industry where it's you're unlikely to get that instant gratification. Yeah,
that's very, very good advice. I have a final question for you, which is, what is something that we might not know about Nick Borelli?
Oh, jeez. Not know about me.
A surprise. What's
a surprise? Many moons ago, lifetime ago, I used to DJ. You knew that, but yeah.
Do you still get on the decks, on the wheels of steel?
No. Not for a long time.
No.
Nah, not for a long time. But it was something I did enjoy doing for a while. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Nick, that has been an absolute delight. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, and all the best with a new business.
Thanks, B. Thank you. Cheers.